Hey folks, this is Keith again. Welcome to the second installment for you special March subscribers of the video tutorial service. We're going to keep going with our idea of poses here. We're going to look a little bit deeper into some of these finer aspects of posing, so without too much more delay, let's get right down into it. First thing up is I want to talk about something called flow lines. One of the best things I ever learned about poses was understanding beyond line of action that all the parts of a character are creating a flow, a visual flow. And body language is important because we feel body language, but we don't look at body language very often. When we look at a character, when we look at a person, we tend to look at their face. We're reading the face. The face is communicating so much, but we sense the body language and we can feel the body language, but we're not focused on it. So good poses are good for underlying those things, but the best poses are going to draw us to the character's face. Or if the character's face is not what we're supposed to be looking at, the best poses will draw us to the thing that we ought to look at. And so when you take a look at your line of action, don't just look at the single line of action, but also take a look at where your arms are going, where your legs are going, where other visual elements in the scene are working together to see where the lines are flowing. Do we have a clean flow from the hips on up through the head, if the face is what we're looking for? Do the arms run right out up into the face? Taking a look at a couple of poses right here from Mickey, again, some scenes I animated for Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas, you see that there's just such a nice flow. Everything from the fingertips runs right up through the shoulder, right into the head. From the feet runs up through the hips, through the torso, and up into the head. Everything's leading to his face because this is a very happy moment for Mickey. He wants everybody to come on inside and enjoy some hot cocoa, and so everything's driving up to that part of the face. It's important to know where your body parts are lying. Don't just stick an elbow out there, and don't just, put a hand here or put a hand there or kick a leg over there just because you think it looks interesting. One of the bugbears that we fall into is animators is sometimes we force principles onto a moment, and I see it a lot. And what I'll see is somebody will give me a piece of animation, and I've done it myself, where they'll give me a piece of animation and I'll see elbows are out and the hands are out and the legs are out and the knees are out and everything's out, and I can say to myself and to people who watch with me, this person's going through their silhouette phase. Now, it's important to have clean silhouettes, but if you force silhouettes, then you start breaking the lines, the flow lines, which will bring you to the point that you need to look at. So take a look at your poses. And again, the best thing to do is do this in your thumbnailing stage, where you can draw the line from the hands with an arrow right to the head. Does it flow cleanly? If it has to make too sharp of a turn, then it's not working. And so, as much as possible, try and keep your poses clean. Try and keep the poses with lines flowing to the face, if the face is what we're supposed to be looking at, which it is most of the time. And if it's not supposed to be the face, then let's go ahead and build the flow so that things are seen where they need to be seen. And you can do that with the line of action, you can do that with arms, and you can do that with legs, you can do that with secondary characters, you can do it with props. Take a look at all these things. And definitely remember that whatever your character is holding is a part of them. So if they're holding a sword, or if they're holding a gun, or whatever they're supposed to be holding, why does it have to be weapons? Maybe they're holding a flower. Try and work that prop into the flow line as well, so that it does not break the flow of where things are supposed to be going. Everything has to work together. There has to be a concert to it. If you don't work everything together, then you start interrupting yourself. And since poses are part of animation, which is a communication of a visual language, when you have lines that aren't flowing inside the pose, it's a lot of times like saying, and you stop every word, and then there's, you kind of get the idea? We're always interrupting the flow of the thought. And if we're interrupting the flow of the thought, then people get frustrated, they get annoyed, and they turn you out. Okay, so that's enough text on the screen. Let's take a look at some of these examples. This is some Glenn Keane drawings. Now, Glenn Keane, I think he knows a thing or two about animating. And let's take a look at this beast image right here. This is just a test pose, and I think this actually ended up getting worked into the movie somehow. But you take a look at this thing, and he's a very powerful character. But when you start superimposing flow lines on them, I mean, the line of action is pretty clear, but when you start putting the flow on them, you start working all these pieces in, you just see how genius this illustration is. I mean, it's just absolutely genius. The hand flows up around through the shoulder, the legs, I mean, everything is just working all to lead you around to that face, and that face tells you everything you need to know. The body language, you feel it, but the face is telling you really what's going on with this guy. He's not happy. He's a surly sort. He's kind of like me on a Monday morning without my coffee. Actually, I don't even drink coffee. Moving on. Here's some thumbnails that Glenn Keane was working on when he was trying to work out a scene for Aladdin, and he was a character supervisor for Aladdin. And here you see there's just there's a lot of neat things expressed in just these 3 simple drawings. Actually, this is just a crop of a big page. But you see the pose on the left with his hands out. That's got a nice flow to it. Everything's coming right up to the face. The hands lead up through the shoulders. Even the lean in, everything's just going right there. And when you go to the one on the right, he's kind of come back up inside of himself, and it's a bit of a contrast. But even there, he still manages to make everything flow up to the face. And he completely different hand gestures, hand poses and everything, but he's thinking about leading you to the face. There's also some other neat stuff in here, a little bonus feature. He's doing a really good job of contrasting open-closed poses, introverted, extroverted posing. We'll get into that topic probably next month, but just a little something to whet your appetite there. Here's one last Glenn Keane example, some thumbnails for Radigan, and you take a look here at the flow of everything, and it's interesting that he's going again the contrast of the inside of himself to outside of himself. But even when he's all bunched together, the flow inside of this big mass of a body still leads you to the head, and then when he spits out the wine, of course, it really leads you right to that moment of like putui, and then the really upset point at the last pose. Again, everything's drawing you right into the head, and we feel all the body language, but what we're really looking at is that face, because that face is going to tell us everything we need to know about what this guy is feeling. Unless you think this whole thing only works with 2-dimensional animation, let's go ahead and take a look at some 3D examples. Here we have a picture of Sully and Boo from Monsters, Inc. And this is a moment where Sully has just discovered Boo, and he's still scared of kids. And you just take a look at this image where Sully is standing there and he's holding up Boo like, I don't know, a dirty diaper, I guess. You just take a look at those lines. I mean, those lines are awesome. They're powerful. Everything leads you right to the little kid at the end of the arm. But the cool thing is, all the lines flow through his face first. So this is the good stuff. This is the genius stuff of good flow. If your poses are working in such a way, they'll lead a person's eye through multiple points, and they'll take you to multiple stations along the way, so that you can quickly and easily, within a very short scene, get your audience to read multiple points of input and understand the story. And this is a still frame example of just what kind of genius that is. If your flow is working, you're going to run it right through a couple of places, Sully's face and then to Boo, and you're going to understand everything you need to know about this relationship and this story at this point. Here's another example from Monsters Incorporated where Sully and Mike are walking along, and the good thing about this one is it just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot going on. But there's a really clever little trick right here where you use the interaction between the two characters to start building a visual flow again along multiple points. Take a look at the flow on Mike and Sully, and you get good lead up through the arms and stuff. The way Mike is posed with his lunchbox out and his arm out, it's starting to draw you in. The legs are drawing you up. Now Mike's pretty easy to do because he's just a giant eyeball with a mouth. But the really cool thing, check out the blue line between Sully's eye and Mike's eye, and it's riding right down Sully's arm. I mean, that's pretty clever stuff right there. That's really smart posing, because what it's doing is it's creating a visual connection between these two characters. I mean, their eye lines help, but having that arm right there is another little added bonus to make it read even easier. One more final example of flow lines in action, especially in CG. Let's take a look here at this one. This was a very quick scene inside of Incredibles. Very quick. I mean, this thing was on screen for maybe 2 seconds. Not very much. But check out the flow line